Hello and welcome to the More Cheese Less Whiskers podcast. My name is Dean Jackson, and today we're talking with Heather Prestanski from Canada, from Ontario, and she has a great business. She has a design business, interior design, that helps people get the best designs and the best outcomes when they're doing remodels. She's got a very successful business. She's been doing it in the business for a while, but has this new business now for 8 months. And we talked a lot about target markets and an approach to making sure that she's establishing a brand, and you'll hear how we define that in the episode here, in the minds of the people who happen to live within a radius of Windsor, Ontario, where she's focused. We also talked about some very specific target audiences, about how to really stand out to a very specific target audience. And like we mentioned in our Profit Activators, plan to dominate. So I really enjoyed this conversation. There's so much potential in this business, and I think you're going to enjoy this episode. So here we go. Heather.
Hi.
Hey, it's Dean. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm so good. How do I say your last name?
It's Prestanski.
Prestanski. Okay,
yes.
Perfect. Now, where are you calling from?
I am in Chatham, Ontario.
Chatham, Ontario.
Yes.
Look at that. Are you quarantined or on social distancing, all of that?
Yeah, we are. Everything is shut down here in Ontario. So we have, we're just staying home and trying to navigate business from home without being able to go to clients' homes. So it's interesting.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, I grew up outside of Toronto in Halton Hills, so not too far from you.
Yes.
So familiar with Ontario.
Good.
So tell me about what you've got going on. It sounds like you've got some pretty cool stuff in the works here.
Yeah, so our business is only about 8 months old in this area. We had a design business in Windsor when we lived in Windsor, but made the mistake of calling that Windsor Decorating and Design. So when we moved, we had to sell that.
Wow.
And so, a few years later, we opened up after we moved to Chatham for my husband's job, and he now works with me. So we are servicing still the Windsor area. We opened up a design center in Tilbury, just kind of in between Chatham and Windsor, so that we could still service that area because the home pricings are a lot stronger there than they are here in the Chatham market. So, so we provide interior design services, interior decorating services to mostly homeowners. We've done a few commercial projects, but it's mostly homeowners that we're focused on, from renovations, new builds, redecorating projects, and things like that.
I love it. And so how does your business work now from a marketing standpoint? If you kind of walk through your before unit, during unit, after unit, whatever level you're using that kind of approach now.
Yeah, so we have been mostly using Facebook marketing for to kind of get us started here. And that's been going pretty well. We've got the majority of our clients through organic Facebook, a little bit of paid Facebook ads, and also through just people kind of driving on the street and seeing our sign. We intentionally put our studio in a very busy rural street, close to the Great Lakes and things like that. So when people are going out to the cottages, we're really close to that. So that has been the vast majority. Now, over the recent months, we've written a book. So that has been pretty good for getting some people onto our list. We have an email marketing sequence that we lay out. Our goal is to get to 52 emails essentially in sequence. So people don't start kind of where everyone else is. And I'm sending an email every week. Instead, they're starting right at the beginning of the sequence. And we are, as you call it, educating, motivating them through those emails. So it's things like before and afters of our projects, so they can see our portfolio work, or we do educational pieces like, 5 mistakes people make when choosing a sofa, or mistakes to watch out for when you're building a house. We send out those types of articles regularly. So that's been pretty good. The other thing that we do is we host 8 times a year. We have them planned out 8 times a year, our workshops in our studio space. So we can host up to about 20 people. It's a fairly small space, so we have to limit that, but up to about 20 people in our space. And we do just different topics. So we just did one on how to choose paint colors, because that's something that people really struggle with. And we've done how to lay out your room like a design pro. And so that's always fun. And that's been a pretty good, what's been interesting for us about that is that a lot of times the people who come, they're the DIYers. So they're not necessarily our clients or the people who are going to pay us, but then they are referring their friends and family members to us as a result of them going to that workshop. So that's been really good for us. Yeah. So
what's the best way that somebody can work with you? Like, what's your sort of highest engagement, or your average engagement, or how you charge, and how that works, who your ideal client is?
Yeah. So we have 3 different levels of engagements with our clients. The lowest level would be a consultation service, which is somewhere between $125 and $300, depending on what it is they need. So that's usually they just have a single use. They need help picking a paint color, picking a countertop, or picking flooring, or something like that. And the rest of it they're kind of doing on their own. The mid-level would be what we call our design, or our DIY design. So that is where we are essentially pulling together the design, the materials, a shopping list for them, but they're going out and they're sourcing, I want this sofa, I want this flooring, I want this, all of that. And then our highest level, the projects that we're really looking for and the projects that we really love to do are the full service. So that is, we are doing the complete design process, which in the planning process ahead of time, which includes coordinating with our trade partners. So let's say we're doing a kitchen. We'll come in, we do our initial concept on the kitchen. We bring in our trade partners so that they can quote it. They can tell me I'm not crazy on the design I want to do. Because sometimes as designers, we have ideas, and then the contractors go, yeah, no, you can't do that. We bring them in first before we present those ideas to the client, so they don't fall in love with something that they can't have. We then formulate the budget. We present that to the clients and say, this is how much it's going to cost to do what you want to do. They either, love it, they want to move forward, or they follow their chair and go, oh, didn't think it would be that much. And we kind of rework the design plan to suit their budget. And then we come back with the full design presentation in where we are presenting, here is the cabinetry, here is the flooring, here is the tile, here are the lighting, here's the, we have all of the material samples, and they can do a 3D photorealistic walkthrough of what it's going to look like and see exactly what it's going to look like. So from there, once they've made all the approvals, once they've paid for the furnishings and materials, all of those things, then we move into the project management phase, which is when we are helping to really be that point person with our contractor, really be that point person in scheduling and having people through the house in terms of doing the work and pulling all of that together. And then about 3 to 4 weeks, I guess in that time as well, we're also ordering all the furnishings. We are storing that in our warehousing facilities. We are checking things. I mean, about 20% of furniture, I'd say, comes in damaged. So we also deal with all of that. So the client doesn't have to. And then we, about 3 or 4 weeks from the end of the project, we have a styling meeting with them, and we just sit down and we really work through what their styling preferences are. Do they like having family photos in the space? Do they not like having family photos in the space? Do they like a particular style of artwork? Do they like something that's a little bit more luxe and layered, or do they like very minimalistic styling? So that when we come in and do the final installation, it's, that HGTV style reveal where our team's been in there all day loading up the space. And then the clients come home and we kind of walk them through, and, there's tears and hugging, and not hugging right now because of the COVID-19.
No hugging, just, nodding, acknowledging and nodding and smiling.
Nodding, acknowledging from a distance.
Yeah.
Keeping our 6-foot hoop on, But yeah, so those are the projects, and those ones there are typically, our fee on that is about $5,500 a room. And then we have a package price if they're doing 3 or more rooms at a time, because we have efficiencies in how we work. But our process is pretty firm and laid out. And if I skip parts of the process, then, we always feel it later. So we run the process from start to finish with every client in every room, no matter how big and how small, and how well we've already known them from the past.
And how much would that, just to put it in context, what would be like a room? You're talking about somebody redoing a living room or a family room or a kitchen, or is it all as a room, or do you have different levels kind of thing?
For the most part, a room is a room. However, we do have some efficiencies for, let's say, kitchens, because we don't have to do the cabinetry drawings. We don't have to do the renderings. Our kitchen cabinetry partner can do that. And that saves me about 18 to 20 hours in the process.
Gotcha.
So, so we do have packages for kitchens and baths and basements that would allow us to have a little bit more efficiencies in that. So, and it depends on the level of service that they want us to take. So, if they just want us to design the kitchen and then they want to handle the project management and the styling and all of that themselves, then that's going to be a lot less expensive, because about 80% of the time and the effort and the grunt work and everything comes in that project management phase and the styling and installation phase. So, so for that, it would be about $850 for us to come in and do the kitchen design and provide them with quotes from our trusted trade partners that we've worked with, we've vetted, we trust, to say you can run with them, or you can run with whomever you'd like. But these are the people that we trust, and these are the ones who have been in your home and have seen the space.
I gotcha. So of all of that, what is the average, typical amount of money that you would make from one engagement? Do you call it an engagement, or what do you call it?
Yeah, a project usually. Yeah. So it does depend on whether or not they're purchasing furnishings or not. So we don't make a lot on, or really anything on materials. Typically, the contractor is going to make the markup on materials. So your hard surfaces, your flooring, your cabinetry, all of that. But if they are buying furnishing, a lot of our clients will buy our to the trade only furnishings. And so, on those projects, we're typically making probably on average, it's about $8,000 to $10,000. And if they are doing design only, our average price point is about $1,500.
$1,500. Okay. And so, what's your dream job? Who's the best? If we could just line you up with them. And first of all, I'll preface that by saying, how busy are you? How much capacity do you have for taking on new work, first off?
Yeah. So our process is laid out fairly well, that we're able to bring in and grow our staff, and for them to still get, Heather's design. For them to still have, my touch, because a lot of the time goes into the drawings and the CAD work and all of those things that we can easily outsource. So we're able to take on, at any given time, it depends on the size of the project. But if we're looking at a whole home, really a whole home, either new construction or renovation project, which would be kind of our ideal, we can handle about 4 to 6 of those at any given time, given our capacity at our warehouse, and just given our capacity of our team and our project management staff, and given kind of how long our process takes. That would be what we would be comfortable with. And depending on the size of the project, so, if they're building a house, if it's a semi-custom home, that's probably a 6-month project. But a full custom home where they're, going through with the architect, that can last a couple of years, depending on the size of the home itself. So our ideal person that we love to work with are both working professionals. So typically, both the husband and the wife are working as professionals. We mostly work with families, and because our style is a little bit more, comfortable, relaxed, and really our goal is around function, and we call it conscious design. So we are not only thinking about how do we make the space look beautiful. Of course, that is an important priority, but it's also how do we make this space function for the family, and how we take into considerations. We've been doing a lot of research in back and forth with some behavioral psychologists around things like how things in our home are impacting mental health, how things in our home are impacting the way that our kids learn and the way that the kids listen to their family and their anxiety levels. So we work in a lot of those things. And then we also, in that conscious design, really look at things like sustainability, environmental, and also just how timeless it's going to be. So protecting your investment versus putting something in, if you do tile everywhere, tile is really expensive. It's not expensive to put down, depending on the tile, but it's very expensive when you have to start pulling it out, because whatever's behind it is going to come up with it. So
now you got to replace the whole floor. Yeah.
Then you're redoing the subfloor, or you're redoing the wall behind the tile, and so you want to make sure that those things, the hard surfaces, are going to be generational. They're going to be things that you still love. As the kids grow older and as your style evolves and changes, we ensure that the things that we put in that might be more on trend are going to be things that are easy to update down the road.
And what do you think is motivating these families? Like, where are they doing remodels that you're working with, or are you describing the new construction or the custom homes as well? Are you working with people who are just remodeling their existing home as well?
Yes. Yeah, definitely remodeling their existing home as well. It could go either way. But typically our process is the same. And it just depends on the builder that if they are working with a builder and doing new construction, it's going to depend on the builder that they choose, because each builder has a different way, and some of them have in-house designers. So so those projects we have to kind of tread a little bit carefully because the builder owns the project. But when it comes to renovations, which is really, I would say, our bread and butter, is more the renovations. We love working on old homes. We ourselves have always lived in a Victorian style old home, and kind of bringing those up to standard for today's living. And so it's either a complete gut renovation, or it's just a simple redecoration of a room or two. And that's probably our bread and butter over the new builds that are a bit more challenging because every builder is different.
Like, one of these things that, how big of a geographic area is the radius around where you are that you typically work with people?
So it would be about an hour drive each way. If we kind of put Chatham as the, bullseye in the middle, we would go to Windsor, which is about an hour towards the border. We would go to London, which is about an hour the other way. And we would go to Sarnia towards the other border. So each of those would be about an hour radius from Chatham, where we live. And our studio is located a little bit closer to Windsor in Tilbury. So, we've got kind of that radius to work with, and we don't love to take projects outside of that.
I was just going to say, that even seems like an hour away, seems like a long way to go. What would be your ideal, if you could say, like, if we were just shaping the ideal scenario for you?
Yes.
It would be, what would be, is there enough, is there work in Chatham or in a closer range, or do you pretty much have to go that far to get to where the jobs are?
There are the average. So Chatham is a very blue collar, low cost town to live in. So we don't have as many, because interior design really it's a luxury service. It's not something people need. It is that luxury service. And so we typically, if people are making that type of investment where they want to bring in a designer, they live in a home that's probably between $750,000 to a couple $1 million would be kind of the price point range. And there's not a lot of this in Chatham. Our ideal scenario would be to do the majority of our work in the Lakeshore Windsor area, which is in about a 25-minute radius of our studio in Tilbury.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Okay, perfect. And the population, Windsor's pretty big, right?
About 250,000, maybe 300,000. Yeah.
Yeah, that's plenty. So, part of what you look at is, I love that you can kind of narrow this down there, because I'm always, first of all, select a single target market. And the difference is that often people misinterpret that by, or where they get resistant to it, is that they're trying to expand the services or expand the language that they use or the description of what they use about what they do to expand the number of people that can select them. Meaning that a designer would think, well, we do this and this and this and this in this 1 hour radius here, so that it's expanding the possibilities of the number of people that could select you to do their design work with them. And what we have the chance to do now, and that's why I'm asking about choosing the specific people that you want, is that we could select those people and then do the marketing to just attract those people individually, right? And so there's a really interesting dynamic that happens when you start to constrain yourself. And part of that, like artificially, there's no need for it, but you're doing it because it amplifies the message that you have. Now, one of the great things about the great gifts that we've been given, in the last few years is Facebook for advertising, right? And Instagram, social media for reaching your audience. And to narrow things down, like, I don't know how you target your ads. I know you were mentioning that you do some Facebook ads. What's your approach? What are you doing? And who are you reaching?
So we typically focus our advertising mostly on that Windsor area, like the Windsor Chatham corridor kind of thing. And so within that 20 or so minute radius of the studio, for a couple of reasons. Number one, because we prefer to have our design presentations at the studio. We have the large screen. We have all of our samples. If they don't like something, I don't have to lug more samples over. We can just get it done in that one meeting. So it saves time for everybody. And
while you're there, you could go see somebody else too, right?
Yes.
Like there's different, a lot of efficiency in that.
Yeah. And just for our project management team for the site visits and things like that, it does really, really help if we are more local, and just, for our trades and everything else, it helps for their scheduling and things like that too, because we do like to use the same people every single project. So that really, it helps us, it helps them. And we just know that we can trust them and we understand how each other works. So, so we do tend to target more that kind of Windsor area plus, 10, 15 miles. We have to be careful because we have to exclude the United States because you're on the Detroit border. Yeah. And we can't, work over in the U.S. And so we are kind of going and expanding, our process through our Facebook ads is it usually starts with a blog post. So we have 5, common custom kitchen mistakes that could cost you thousands. And if they click through and they read that ad, then we're going to retarget them with an ad for our custom kitchen design package. We have an ad for how to budget for your refurnishing project. So we know that those people are probably looking in the near future for their to redecorate and to buy furnishings. Furnishings are a great profit center for us. And then we can retarget them with other articles and videos around before and afters that we've done, and so that they can see some of the 3D visuals. They can see some of the furnishing that we can offer, because they're not able to get it anywhere else. And that's a big reason that we are winning projects is, they say, I've been looking, I find the furniture I like online, but we can't get it shipped here to Canada. Or if we can, it's like $800 shipping for a sofa.
Right.
And so we have the ability to get these things because we have the receiving and we do have the trade account to be able to access furnishing that they can't access inside of furniture stores. We do, so that's kind of every type of project in a home, because most people have a starting point, right? Most people are starting in either their living room, their kitchen, or their bathroom or their basement. It's not very often that, somebody goes, I need to hire a designer for my kids' room or for, or for powder room. They kind of want to bring us in on the projects that are most important to them. So we're really focusing our marketing efforts on those rooms, because once we get one room with the client, then they're much more likely to bring us in for their next project. And
absolutely. How would you rank it? What the starting point? Would it be bathrooms or kitchens or?
We've probably been brought on most often for living rooms and for kitchens. Living rooms, people find how to lay out their furniture challenging and just finding specific
the right
pieces.
kind of
so
furniture,
so a lot of times they come because they can't find a great couch or they can't find a rug. Rugs all the time. And we have over 10,000 rugs at our disposal that we can sample and kind of bring in. So rugs are really, really big. And the kitchen is just more, people are terrified to do it on their own.
I think you're right. Absolutely. Yeah. And I guess that would be the same thing with bathrooms, that they would be the same kind of thing, anything where there's fixtures and all that kind of stuff. Right.
Definitely. I'd say kitchens are probably, they're just, I don't know, they're hot right now. Everyone seems to be doing their kitchen. Maybe it's a HGTV driven thing, but we definitely see more kitchens than baths. But once we're in on those 2 points, the living room or the kitchen, then we are off to the races with some of the other rooms in the house.
Yeah. And so when you're running the ads, are you doing lead generation ads or audience building ads, like engagement or video ads that you're tracking views to an audience, and then you're doing everything just on Facebook, or are you gathering email as well?
Yeah, so we have a couple of tools right now to gather emails. We have a budget guide. So, and we created that because I was asking people on our discovery calls and on our initial kind of discovery sessions, do you have a budget in mind? And either their budget would just be so far off of what they wanted, or like they couldn't even do it at IKEA kind of thing, or it would be, I have no clue what it's going to cost. And so we created a guide that we could use to walk through with people to say, this is what an inexpensive sofa would cost. This is what a mid-range sofa costs. This is what a high-end designer sofa would cost. And we usually work with people in a mixture of all three. So that is an opt-in that they can get. We also, when they do book with us, we send it out in a folder as part of our welcome package, because it's an important part of the discussion. And then we also have the book. So for the book, they can they can buy it on Amazon, but we do have, if you get on our list, then you get the book for free, and that's what most people opt to do. They opt to actually opt in, and they get the PDF version of the book. And the book is 10 common decorating mistakes that fill homeowners with regret. So we it kind of covers off wherever they're at in the starting point. And that gets them into the email sequence where we're just sending them something once a week, every week. And we do just start them on kind of day one. So, I might be on week 12 and someone else might be on week 1, but that way.
Okay. So it's not like my world, I'm doing the podcasts as our flagship so that everybody jumps in where we are right now. It's not a sequence type of thing. Okay. And there's no right or wrong on that. The emails are going out. So this is all very exciting. How much does it cost you to get an opt-in now if you're able to do the book offer or these budget guides or? Yeah.
So it does depend. We see it vary anywhere between about $2.50 and about $5.50. And it'll go up and down and kind of fluctuate in between that, but it doesn't really go much higher than about $5.50.
Right. Perfect. And so now you look at this as, building that list of people who know you and, like you and have an awareness of you, that you've created a list of now visible prospects. Right. And that goes a long way because there's, getting design is not the same. You can't buy a list of people who are thinking about remodeling their home, right? Like that's really where it is. But that by narrowing your audience to this, 20-minute radius around Windsor, that you've got a fixed kind of audience there. And what we really need to do, this is what's fascinating to me, is that, growing up in Canada and spending, up until 5 years ago, I spent every summer there. Like we would spend 5 months I'd spend from May till October in Canada. I still spend a couple of months in Toronto every summer. So I can say to you that we can talk about Sarah Richardson, for instance. Yeah. Right? And you know exactly who I'm talking about. Yes. But most of the people on the podcast, listening to the podcast here, have no idea who she is because she's on HGTV, but she's on HGTV Canada. Right. And so she's famous in a context, right? She's famous only in Canada. And this is an interesting thing for me, is that realizing now, if you see the way that kids today now are completely enamored with YouTube stars, right? Like they don't know anybody on TV, but they know all of the YouTube stars, right? And they get that starstruck thing with them. And so what you really have the opportunity to do is to get, 20-mile famous, where you could be your Heather Prestanski. And the only thing, see, this is part of the thing about branding, is that my recent revelation about branding, because I've never had a good definition of brand that I've been happy with, or that anybody could really describe what it is. And I settled on an acronym for brand, which is a buying reflex affecting now decisions. That's really what we're trying to establish in the minds of the people that we're trying to serve, right? Now, Coca-Cola has established a brand in more people all over the world than anybody else because of the years and years and years of consistent messaging that when it matters, when people say, what would you like to drink? That they say, I'll have a Coke. That buying reflex when presented with an opportunity to get a drink is, I'll have a Coke. And so what we're trying to establish in a business context is that when somebody says, I'm going to remodel the house, get me Heather Prestanski. That's the buying reflex that we're trying to create. Just like in Toronto, a lot of people have that, even though she's on HGTV Canada, she really primarily works with people in Toronto. So that creates the job for her. That reason that she gets a lot of jobs is because she's famous, because she's Sarah Richardson. Now, to produce one of those shows is not at all very expensive now, right? Like everybody has the capability to, with a, even your iPhone, as far as like YouTube or Facebook stuff goes. If you have just a good HD camera and somebody holding the camera and a nice lavalier microphone, that you have the makings of being able to do what you do in the same way that Sarah Richardson does for probably $1,000 worth of equipment, right? If you went all the way and had lighting and, everything there, that you could create your own reality show.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's even something we could do because we have most of that equipment for the photography and everything else. Yeah.
Absolutely. Like documenting these things. So if I said, like you mentioned that you love these Victorian remodels, right? And so here's how my mind thinks, because what I'm thinking about is to select a single target market and then plan to dominate that market. So if we took Windsor, excuse me, at a radius around there, there are quite a few of these Victorian homes, probably, right?
Yes. Definitely. And there are certain neighborhoods that have the larger, older homes, for sure.
Exactly. And so one of the things that you can do with both with postcards, and in Canada, you've got a great opportunity for what unaddressed ad mail. Do you do any direct mail?
We haven't done direct mail, but I've considered doing it.
Okay, well, because in Canada, it's one of the best bargains ever that for, 12 or 13 cents, you can have Canada Post. You get them at your home. You see postcards that are delivered, but they don't have an address on them. They're just delivered to your mailbox. To go to those, you can do an entire postal walk, which would be, 400 homes in a particular neighborhood. And they have a map where you can look online, at Canada Post, the mail route, the postal routes, and you could pick specifically the neighborhoods with just the higher propensity to have those older Victorian homes, right?
Okay.
And you can do even targeting with the Facebook micro-targeting ads that are just like, I treat those like mailing a postcard. We've used micro-targeting on Facebook to target a specific subdivision with, a few hundred homes. And the way we do it is with the inclusion groups where you can narrow down to 1 mile radius in Facebook. But then we would also put around it exclusion groups, like you exclude the United States. You say, don't show it to people in Detroit. And so when we look at that, by surrounding the neighborhood where you want to be, you can exclude this area of new homes, exclude this area, so that you're targeting now almost exclusively the older part of town. Or the other way around, if you want to target the homes that were all built in the last 5 years, that maybe it's time that they're thinking now about doing their basement. You can target specifically those things. But imagine if people living in a Victorian home, which there are only so many of them, when you go into this idea of dominating a market or getting as much as being the preeminent provider in that segment of the market, you look at it with a long-term perspective. Like, are you building this business for a long term, or are you looking to go somewhere else, or what's your long-term vision for this?
Yeah, I mean, this is a passion business for me. So, when I was sitting on a beach in Mexico last year, I looked at my husband and I said, I need to do this again. Within a week we had a space, we were starting renovations, so this is a long term for us, and both myself and my husband are involved, and it's our bread and butter. So we're in it for the long haul for sure. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So if you look at it, that there's a limited amount of time that it would take for somebody, even when you think about, and I described this is in the effort that nobody else, you'd have such a competitive advantage with this, that if you knew exactly where all of the Victorian homes were in that radius, and you could target those Victorian homeowners only with with content that is specifically targeted to Victorian homes, to remodels, as a niche for that, right? That is where you've got this huge opportunity. And it may sound like, okay, that would take a little bit of effort, right? And it would. But imagine if you could create a list of 1,000 Victorian homes or 2,000 Victorian homes, then it would take some, limited amount of time. Somebody could literally drive through specific neighborhoods, and you could mark on a map or mark on a list, like doing a census kind of thing about the types of homes that you're talking about, who that person could be. And then it's really about that is much easier to position yourself and create that buying reflex among those specific people, because you're going to speak to them differently than you would speak to all the new homes that were built in the last 5 years that probably don't have their basement redone yet, for instance.
Yes.
Right? Like, it's not often when somebody's buying the new, subdivision homes that they buy the home, then there's a lot of money in getting their furnishing and decorating the main living areas of the house. And then 2, 3, 4 years later, they've got a breathing room now, and it's time to redo or do the basement.
Right. Yeah. And I think just clients who own Victorian homes, they tend to like a very specific style. Whereas with new builds, we're running in, there's certainly different styles that kind of come along.
Yeah.
And we see with some of the big design, I mean, even you talk Sarah Richardson, I mean, she has a very defined style. Like, she is a contemporary designer, right? And you've got people like Shay McGee, who really has her own style as well. It's very, very defined. And she's got, over 1 million followers on Instagram and just blew up really large. Whereas, right now we take projects and part of what I love is definitely digging into what that client's personal style is. But we do talk to people that if you live in a mid-century home and you put in a modern farmhouse kitchen, it's going to look dated in 5 years when the modern farmhouse trend is gone. I mean, the modern farmhouse trend is already kind of on the out. But
like the big barn board and the I think that's the thing. I said to somebody, as soon as I started, as soon as I saw everybody doing the horizontal barn boards on walls and stuff, that I said, that's the 70s paneling of our generation,
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah. But if you live in a farmhouse on a farm, then that is going to remain timeless for that home because it is true to the architecture of the home, right?
Sure.
No different than the 70s paneling. When you walk into a mid-century home that's, 70s architecture, it kind of looks cool and vintage and, and people love it in those homes. But you stick that in my home that's from 1900.
Right. Especially, if you paint the paneling, that's a funny thing. Yeah. But I wonder, that's going to be I think maybe these stainless steel appliances are going to be the harvest gold stoves and appliances of 10 years from now.
Well, it's funny too, because we are seeing that at trade shows, right? And so part of our job is to go to the trade shows to see what the different vendors are offering, and we're seeing more and more white appliances coming back. And I remember having white appliances as a kid, and and they're like, look, they're ugly, right? You get that reaction, like people who grew up in the 70s kind of have to the gold coming back. They're like, oh, I don't know if I can handle it. But it is interesting. So we've seen black stainless steel and and
our appliances are built into our fridges the same as the cabinetry. So
so you've got the panel ready.
There you go. Yes, exactly. That's so funny. But even that, think about the stuff now. We have the the door, the kitchen cabinetry and stuff. Now it seems like everything is more towards the shaker, the modern shaker style or whatever. That seems to be the trend right now. But in any event, this model of taking your CAT scan perspective of this bubble, if you put that bubble around Windsor and you are focusing on, at the top level, all kinds of design stuff, but where it's really going to be amplified is when, in addition to the general design stuff that you're sending as messaging to the whole audience, to now, in addition, I live in a Victorian home and I'm getting your Victorian stuff specifically, that's going to really be, oh, wow, she specializes in my kind of house,
Right.
You're speaking directly to them. And I might look at taking a particular market, like that feels like the people who buy those homes, part of the dream is to renovate an old Victorian and do it there. What I would look at is perhaps partnering with a real estate agent to because you're getting this audience of the Victorian homes, or the desire for that. That there's so many. There's only so many that would be renovation ready kind of thing. Like some you could tell are already done, like have been remodeled, and they show it from the outside and the inside, or that you can imagine that they're redone on the inside. But then there will be others that are, let's say, less loved, or that are that they don't have a design eye on them. They're not appealing from the outside. And there's probably some on the market right now that would be a really interesting thing because it would only take a couple for you when people buy a new Victorian home, that you kind of go, that you adopt that person as a specific target market. Like if you were to know that this Victorian house just sold, so that you can go approach that person as a new mover, that would be a pretty high probability, right? That they're going to be in there. Or if you preempt it by helping, like one of the things that I'm sure you do are style or idea boards, or different things like to show what could be possible.
Yes.
And so, I wonder if that, as a realtor who's selling one of the non-renovated ones yet, that you could put some ideas, some render, some things that spark creativity for people in what could be possible in that area,
Yeah, totally. Well, it's funny is my mom and sister are real estate agents. So
okay, perfect.
Yeah, so
and
that works out
in
quite
Windsor?
Well. They're in the Chatham area. My mom lives in Lighthouse Cove, which is in that Windsor area. So she'd like to sell more out in that area, but she had always she owned a Remax office in Chatham for many years. So so that would work out quite nicely. We know a lot of real estate because when I lived in Windsor, I was a mortgage specialist. So I know a lot of real estate agents in Windsor. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, perfect. So this, I think, is a great, that could be a great opportunity if you're that, you're closely aligned there. If you had a reality show in Windsor about, like, almost the equivalent of an HGTV show about Victorian homes, and you're showing Victorian remodels, like documenting it like a project, like you're doing an episode of Sarah Richardson's show where you're walking people through the design process and through the decisions that you're making. If you're documenting those things, that's going to be a very valuable thing for people to voyeur in on,
Right. Yeah, for sure. And I think even when they see some of those renderings, because they do, they look like the room. When we post them, even sometimes we'll say, here's a render we did. And somebody will say, oh, did you change the baseboard? I'm like, no, it's a render. So it's a real picture. Yeah, they do. Some of them are just so photorealistic that people think that they're a real picture. So for people to be able to see that, I think would be really cool. And one thing that we have been doing with real estate agents, it kind of got put on hold because of the COVID-19 and we can't get the supplies. But when it was something we were just getting going is boxes that our realtors buy as closing gifts. So we get trade discounts on, things like nice candles and throws and all those things that would cost them significantly more to buy. So we give it to them at cost, and it's a branded box, and it's all of the real estate agents branding on the top. Our logo is kind of on the side flat. And when they open it up, it's a copy of our book, along with a nice throw, a nice candle, and it has a fan deck that when our paint partner at Sherwin-Williams, they actually will pull together our 20 favorite paint colors as well. So that, you know, because that's the first thing that people do when they move is they paint.
Yes, of course.
You know, so, and actually that might even be a good lead magnet for us as well, just around the how to choose paint colors, because we have a video right now really, really well around that. To help to target those new movers. But our whole goal with that is just to get our names into people's homes, you know, as much as possible. So we could certainly add some things in there where if they are selling in those older neighborhoods with, you know, the Victorians, most of the streets around here will be a mix, probably of Victorian and Craftsman, because they're all, you know, built within a 20-year span of each other. But, you know, if they were selling a home in one of those areas, and we've moved around a lot between Windsor and Chatham and always in those areas, we know a lot of them already. Maybe we could have some supplemental information in there just around old homes and around modernizing those old homes while keeping the character and the charm.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's great. And I mean, that kind of thing where, you know, that kind of content would be a great thing that the real estate agent might love to sponsor, to be part of, that you could talk about, you know, to get a list of Victorian homes that are renovation ready, just go to this website or call this number.
Right.
That might, that it could be a lead generation thing for them, for both of you. That's really what you're creating, content that creates desire, that people, you know, if you're showing it in specific areas, that people would be able to, you know, get that desire to do a Victorian home.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. And I mean, the content can start in our own home, because we're in the process of renovating anyway. So even though we're trapped at home right now, we could start something here.
Are you documenting it now? Like, I mean, if you document it as a reality show. Yeah.
You know what? With us being on lockdown, we haven't even started. So we're just in the process of starting and, you know, getting some samples in and things like that, because samples are still shipping. So that is something that we can do. And my husband can be the client essentially, and we can walk them through the entire process from start to finish, which I think would be really good for people to understand more about what we do as well. Because I think a lot of people think we just come in and in 2 hours we can pick out everything for their house. And, and, you know, if it's taking them 100 hours to do it, you know, it might take us 30 or 40, but it's definitely not going to be done in 2, you know? It can kind of show a little bit more of that.
How long is the process going to take for you?
Well, so the home that we're in is in really great shape. It was gray washed during the gray trend. So every room was painted gray, you know, and we just need to bring back some of that character and charm and bring in some of the more traditional wallpapers done it. But I think it'll be great because it can show people how this can be done in a modern way. And we can talk about how, you know, even just how things like wallpaper have come a long way. The wallpaper that we're stripping from the walls, it's horrible to strip off, but to the newer wallpapers is very, very easy to take off in the future. So as long as we're prepping the walls correctly. So we can definitely show a lot of that. And really within a couple of weeks could have a couple of the rooms done that don't need a lot, that just need the paint paper styling. You know, things like the kitchen, we'll have to wait until we can do that right. I mean, it's a gorgeous kitchen. It's just, it's 20 years old. It needs a facelift. But, you know, we can't get countertops and tile and things like that right now. But that could be, you know, for anything that we can kind of DIY for now, we could be starting there and showing that.
I think that's it. I mean, documenting this whole thing and thinking about it as little chapters, you know, little episodes that you're doing that are educational opportunities. That's all I think going to be that's going to be a great thing.
Yeah, I think that we could even share, the initial ideas, kind of like where we dig into what the client style is. We could share behind the scenes of what that meeting looks like. We could share a little behind the scenes of how we pull together the concept. We could pull together, an actual video of a concept and budget meeting where we are reviewing the financials and we are reviewing the concept and how flexible we are with, if clients want changes and things like that, so that people don't feel like we're going to push them in one direction. Because I've heard horror stories about that with clients working with designers, and I know that that's something that they're afraid of. Yeah, for sure. And we could kind of document that straight through, obviously, to the end, the installation and the reveal and all of those things. But I think there's so many steps that aren't often talked about on, definitely not on HGTV. They kind of skip through a lot of it, right? And and the thing with HGTV is the cost they show is just for the walls and the floors, and it doesn't include all the pretty furniture that you see. When they talk about this cost is the renovation, and I think it would be nice to pull back the curtain a little bit and show them what it actually costs to finish a room, like what they see there.
Yes. I like it. And I think this is, I think that's a really great opportunity for you. Lots of, sounds like you got a lot of progress that you're making already in 8 months. So very exciting.
We've been a long time listener, and we've been taking a lot of
I love it. That's great.
What you say on the podcast to heart. That's why we wrote the book. That's why we were doing some of the Facebook ads and things like that. So I appreciate it, Dean. I think we're going to get to work on this, and we're going to do everything that we can to make the best use of this time while we're on lockdown, because I think it's a good time to be creating some of this stuff. I
love it. Well, I can't wait to watch it all unfold. It's been a lot of fun brainstorming, hatching evil schemes with you.
Same,
I just think you get such a great opportunity. So thanks for playing.
Thank you.
I'll watch out and see what happens.
Okay, thanks so much, Dean. I appreciate it.
Thanks. Okay, Heather, thanks.
Take care.
Bye. And there we have it. Another great episode. Thanks for listening in. If you want to continue the conversation, we'll go deeper in how the 8 Profit Activators can apply to your business. 2 things you can do. Right now, you can go to morecheeselesswhiskers.com and you can download a copy of the More Cheese Less Whiskers book, and you can listen to the back episodes, of course, if you're just listening here on iTunes. Secondly, the thing that we talk about in applying all of the 8 Profit Activators are part of the breakthrough DNA process. And you can download a book and a scorecard and watch a video all about the 8 Profit Activators at breakthroughdna.com. And that's a great place to start the journey in applying this scientific approach to growing your business. That's really the way we think about Breakthrough DNA, as an operating system that you can overlay on your existing business and immediately look for insights there. So that's it for this week. Have a great week, and we will be back next time with another episode of More Cheese, Less Whiskers.